Are you ready to take your message, your business, and your life to the next level?
Want to learn from someone with more than a decade of experience, training tens of thousands of people from all around the world?
Hi, Cliff. This is Pauline from Auckland, New Zealand.
John from Calgary, Alberta.
Amy Porterfield.
Michael Hyatt.
Dan here from Dunedin, New Zealand.
Ray Edwards.
Mark Mason. Mike Stelzner.
Pat from Smart Passive Income.
It's Darren from Melbourne, Australia.
Now is the time to live the life of your dreams and do the work you feel most called to do in the world.
Welcome to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Here's your host, Cliff Ravenscraft.
That's right, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. This will be one of the longer episodes of this podcast that I have produced. But I'm going to be sharing with you something that is among the most valuable as far as a monetary sort of thing for the right person. I don't know if that's you or not, but if you are, then you'll know when you listen to this episode whether or not it was meant for you. So, for many years, I have benefited more than practically anything else in my life when it comes to the success that I have had growing personally and professionally, improving all areas of my life, whether that be my physical fitness and health, my relationships with others, my mindset of first of all, what's possible, who I am, what I'm capable of doing, and certainly even the areas of my financial wealth. Every area of my life has been radically and profoundly impacted at the highest level as a result of as a result of many things in my life, but one thing is right at the top of maybe the top 2 or 3 things out of everything else that has had a profound impact on my life. It's my involvement with a mastermind group. I first heard about mastermind groups from one of my mentors and friends, Dan Miller. He is the author of the book 48 Days to the Work You Love, and, actually several other books as well. He and I have been friends going all the way back to 2009, and he always talked about his mastermind group with his best friend Dave Ramsey and a bunch of other men who were a part of their Eagles group that met together every single week. I know that Dan was a part of that group for either 10 years or 12 years before he decided to go and pursue some other things in his life. But that group continued on. I've met many of those men who were a part of that Eagles group that Dan Miller met with on a weekly basis. And several of those men had become and have become my closest and dearest friends as well. So I benefited from Dan's mastermind group that he spent over a decade with meeting on a weekly basis with those folks. And he's the first person I ever heard the phrase mastermind group. Then I heard Dan Miller and a number of other people mention this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's not that Napoleon Hill discovered and created the idea of the mastermind principle. It's just it became very popularized in business circles and people who were studying how to improve themselves. It became popularized in the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill in 1937 when it was published. Now, the thing is, though, is that mastermind groups go all the way back to the earliest time. Jesus had his own mastermind group. Benjamin Franklin had his own mastermind group. Matter of fact, we have public libraries today, public universities, we have public firehouses. There's all sorts of things that came out of Benjamin Franklin's mastermind group. What I've learned and discovered about the mastermind group, and more importantly, the mastermind principle, I began to get very interested in this. And so I was reading and studying this back in the middle part to latter part of 2010. And that was right around the time that I developed a friendship and a relationship with Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income. He had become a client of mine, and I had trained and taught him how to successfully create and launch a great-sounding audio podcast. And through our conversations that we were having with one another, and we certainly shared a lot of values and a lot of similar vision for how we wanted our lives to go from that day forward, talking about the fact that we both loved our unceasing, undying approach to personal and professional growth, I began to talk to him about this mastermind group principle, and I asked him, I said, hey, would you like to start a mastermind group, just the two of us, and we'll grow it as we go? And well, Pat Flynn and myself have been meeting every single week in a mastermind group since October 2010, and that is coming up on 10 years. So, yeah, my life has been radically, profoundly impacted as a result of this group. Now, today, the Green Room Mastermind that Pat and I still are in together today, we have four other men who are part of it as well. Some incredibly awesome men that it's just, it's unbelievable. And the thing is I just feel like I should tell you right now, this group that Pat and I started in October 2010, it is not a paid group. I have facilitated every single weekly meeting ever since we started. I am not, quote unquote, the leader of the group. It is not my group. It is a peer group. We are 6 men who are absolutely committed to one another's success. All of those things. And by the way, I'm not using this episode to describe what a mastermind group is. This is not going to be a mastermind resource on this stuff. In fact, I said at the beginning of the episode, this isn't for everyone. This is for those who are already in the know or believe that they're in the know about what a mastermind group is. And there's a lot of different approaches that you could have to a mastermind group. You can have free groups that nobody's ever charged anything. I have nothing against those. In fact, I'm as I said, been a part one for 10 years now. There are some that you can charge people money to be a part of. I facilitate 2 of those right now called the Next Level Mastermind. One is my AM group that meets on a weekly basis on Wednesday mornings. The other one is my PM group that meets once a week on Thursday evenings. You can have a variety of different mastermind relationships outside of official mastermind groups. My wife and I have had a mastermind relationship ever since we began dating one another. So there's a whole lot that could be said about the mastermind principle, mastermind relationships, mastermind groups, how groups ought to be run, how often do they meet, what is the main purpose of them. This is not that episode. This is not that resource. So what is this resource? Who is this episode for? Well, first and foremost, it was for Kim Rondina and others like her in my existing client base. You see, I happen to attract a lot of people who value a lot of the same things that I value, who have dreams and goals and aspirations that are similar to mine and serving others. And not all of my existing clients have a desire to mimic some of the business model that I have today, but it's not uncommon for several of the people that are existing clients to want to do some of the things that I have done. I mean, it's one of the things that have attracted them to pay for some of my products or services or my one-on-one coaching. So Kim Rondina is one of several of my existing clients who are very much getting deeper and deeper into the world of offering one-on-one coaching and paid mastermind groups. Now, again, this is not to say that the only way to do a mastermind group is a paid group. This isn't to, again, I'm not here to tell you about, what's the format of a mastermind group, who should be allowed in a group, all this stuff. This is simply me creating a resource, actually, for my existing clients. I just happen to be letting you in on this for free. But Kim says, Cliff, I would love to have some sort of resource from you that just covered some of the logistics of mastermind groups. If you could just talk about some of the things that you have learned, some of the hard-earned knowledge that you've picked up along the way. In fact, I am going through in my audio journal podcast over at mindsetanswerman.com/audio journal. I'm going through a series of episodes on Think and Grow Rich, and Chapter 5 is titled Specialized Knowledge. It's the knowledge that you get through personal experiences and observation. So not only have I facilitated the Green Room Mastermind group, which is a free group that I host with some of the highest, most successful people in my peer space, I've got a decade of that experience. I have an experience of facilitating 2 groups of the Next Level Mastermind. They started in November 2018. They started out at $1,000 a month per person. Today, the price of the Next Level Mastermind is $2,250 per month, or you can save a little bit of money if you pay $25,000 up front each year for membership. So I have, again, experience in the free group facilitation for a decade and going on 2 years. Is it 2 years? No, it'll be 18. So 19, 20. Yeah, so it'll be 2 years. That doesn't seem right. Anyway, it's been since November 2018. It's currently Friday, July 10th, 2020. You do the math on that one. I didn't do it ahead of time, and now I've made a fool of myself, but that's okay. I'm not here to impress you. So with that being said, what was I going to say? So I have the experience of doing very high level paid mastermind group. And high level means the bar is set extremely high for who's even eligible for this group. And the bar is set pretty high financially as far as the commitment or investment that's necessary to be a member within the group. I also have lots of experience and observation of participation in many other groups. Before I started this group, there was a time many years ago, I received a $12,000 contribution, a donation from a member of my community. It says, Cliff, I just wanted to send you a $12,000 donation just to encourage you. I get so much value out of your content. So much of what you're doing reminds me of when I got started as an entrepreneur, and it's helping me reconnect to some of that amazing creative energy that I had in the earliest days of my life. And I've built a business as a result of the kinds of things that you're sharing in your content. I built a business many years ago that today allows me to live the lifestyle where I make several millions of dollars per year, every year in personal, not business, personal income without having to work pretty much at all. In fact, he said, he continued in his letter where he sent me this check for $12,000. He says, listen, I'd be happy to talk with you if you're ever interested. He just says, listen, I'm not trying to get anything from you. You've already earned everything that I've contributed with this $12,000. I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing. So I developed, thankfully, a friendship and a relationship and even a mentorship with this individual that sent that donation. And one of the things that happened is he invited me up to his home in Columbus, Ohio. And he says, Cliff, if you'd like some advice, I can tell you one thing that's missing from your business model. And I said, what's that? He said, the one thing that's missing from your business model is recurring revenue. As soon as he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Because I was the type of person that needed to go out and find new clients every month. I would find people who would hire me and I would be their coach for 4 weeks, or they would pay $2,000 to go through my 4-week training course. And I'd have 20 to 30 people go through that every other month. But once the month was over, now I'm without any clients. I have no guaranteed income. I'm living the life of this solopreneur entrepreneur. Is like, oh my gosh. I got to the place where reliably I could fill, those spots, but it was a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of energy to do these things, because what you need to come up with is some ideas to create products or services where the same clients can pay you over and over and over again so that you have recurring revenue. So I decided, after that inspiring conversation, I wanted to create a $10,000 a month revenue source from some sort of membership program. Somebody, and the idea was that I would find 100 people to pay $100 per month. That was the genesis of this idea. And so I began to say, okay, I'm going to do a membership program, but most people doing membership, they're used to paying $9 a month, $29 a month, $30, $49 a month. I'm asking people to come up and pay $100 a month. So what do I give them for this? And this is before the days of Facebook groups. So there's like a discussion forum. There could be some monthly webinars. I mean, I was coming up with all kinds of ideas, and none of it really resonated in my soul with the value of $100 a month. And I didn't know if I really wanted to manage just a membership program like a lot of my friends were doing. So I sat there, I said, well, what's the number one most valuable thing that I have experienced in my life that I could then help other people experience? And the answer to that question was easy: a mastermind group. And then I got to thinking, wait a second. So here's an idea. What if I were to facilitate? Now, by the way, in my mind at the time, I felt like the perfect size of a group, of a mastermind group, for it to be very effective, in my mind, it was 10 to 12 people. And I still think that for myself. That's open for debate by a lot of people. But for me, I feel like a mastermind group, 10, 12 people, that's about the appropriate size for an incredibly powerful mastermind group. Not that and trust me, you can have an incredibly powerful mastermind group with 2 people. You can have an incredibly powerful mastermind group with 6 people. I just question whether or not you can have an incredibly powerful mastermind group with 27 people. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there becomes some diminishing returns eventually, potentially, depending on some of the way that you format your meetings and gatherings and things of that nature. But again, this isn't about how to do mastermind groups. This is something else, and it will become quite evident when we get into the recorded conversation with Kim Rondina that I share with you in a little bit. But I want to continue to give you some backstory of my experience to share with you where this specialized knowledge has come from, where, again, specialized knowledge from chapter 5 in Think and Grow Rich. It's where my personal experiences and observations have taught me things that I just wasn't ever going to pick up in a book. I wasn't going to pick up in an online course. It's not something that there are some things one just needs to experience or needs to learn from someone else who has experienced them. Thus, why I created this conversation with Kim to be shared with my other existing clients, and I have had permission from my friend Kim Rondina to share this conversation publicly with anyone I please. And thus, why you're hearing my voice right now, setting the stage for this incredibly long piece of content, but one of the most powerful and most financially valuable pieces of free content I've ever put online. One of, not the most. Got some pretty powerful stuff out there, my friends. But anyway, so I had this idea. What if I get 100 people to be in a mastermind group that I facilitate? But that doesn't work because in my mind, a group really starts to lose its effectiveness after about 12 members. So what if I create 10 mastermind groups that I personally facilitate, where each group has 10 people paying $100 a month? That was my brilliant idea. Now, how could I possibly work this out? I should probably tell you, this is approximately 10 years ago, So this is, it was about 10 years ago when this all occurred to me. So at the time, I was making about $10,000 a month in business income on average. So the idea is that if I could actually get the recurring revenue from $10,000 a month from facilitating paid mastermind groups, 10 paid mastermind groups with 10 people in 10 groups paying $100 per person, this would be the holy grail. This could be all of my income, and it would be I would have replaced all of my hunting and gathering marketing income with recurring revenue, thus immediately implementing this advice from my friend Stuart Crane. Yes, I just gave you his name, and he has no problem. He knows I've told the story of Stuart Crane. Matter of fact, if you want to read that letter, the check for $12,000, and if you want to read the letter that he wrote me, go over to mindsetanswerman.com/check. That's mindsetanswerman.com/CHECK, and it will pull it up. You can actually see the image. I took a photo with my phone, and there's the photo of the check with the pertinent information all blocked out. But anyway, matter of fact, that was July 27th, 2011. So that's when that check came in. So anyway, I wanted to implement this, and I was so excited. And my thinking was, okay, I do believe that the most effective mastermind groups meet together on a weekly basis. I do. I just think there's something about weekly that is pretty phenomenal. That's been my experience with all of the various different groups I've been involved in and facilitated. Weekly is the single best format for ongoing depth and connection and all the other things. So weekly is the best for me personally. By the way, before I go any further, I want to just stop in the story of the $10,000 revenue stream goal with 10 groups of 10 people paying $100 a piece. I'll put a pin in that for a second. Before I continue there, I want to let you know I've also been the member of approximately 5 to 7 other mastermind groups that I've been invited to participate in. Some of them have been in-person only events. Like there was one group that was led by a wonderful dear friend of mine, and he had a group that met twice a year, every year, or was it once every 3 months? But it was in person only. I was a part of a mastermind group that met once a month by telephone only, and it had plenty of people in it. And that one was a terrible group. The face-to-face meeting I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, my experience in that group, as far as the value of the days that we were there, the value of the time spent in that mastermind group on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest, it was always a 10 plus. I mean, we're talking 15, 20. Some great ideas always came out of that experience. From the idea perspective, from the inspiration perspective, it was off the charts the times that we were in the meeting. But relationally, my connection to the other human beings in that group, outside of the people I already knew and interacted with on a pretty consistent basis, there was like 8 men in this group. And by the way, not all groups need to be just men. My next level mastermind, it's men, women, it's every walk of life, it's everything. You're going to hear that. So, but it just so happens that I've been a lot of groups where it seems to be a bunch of guys. It's a guys club. It doesn't have to be that, trust me. Next level mastermind, certainly not that. But anyway, but the thing is there were some other very powerful people that I had heard about before. I got to meet them. They knew me. I knew of them. And we met, and this group met for about a year. So I can't remember if there were 2 in-person meetings or were there 4 in-person. I mean, this is a long time ago. But I can tell you right now, I could probably email those guys or dig out their phone number in my text archives and text them, and I could probably, well, no, I know for a fact I could instantly get any one of those guys to jump on a phone call with me anytime whatsoever. But it would be doing it with almost like a semi-stranger. I mean, sure, we spent 8 or more hours for an entire day on more than one occasion, and there was some relationship, but it never really went deep. And there was a lot missing there. So what I'm sharing here is I've had lots of different meetings. I've had in-person mastermind groups that I've been part of that meet infrequently, only in person. I've had some that met some in person, but then also lots of virtual meetings via like Zoom today. But I've had telephone only. I've had groups that meet once a month. I've had all sorts of different formats for what happens during those meetings. And again, what I'm sharing with you is I'm coming from all of this mastermind stuff. The next level mastermind is the result of lots of experience and lots of observation, and not just my own, but I'm also connected with other people who rely on the mastermind principle and have been a part of an incredibly large number of mastermind group experiences in their own lives. And we all talk about mastermind group stuff all the time because masterminding is so incredibly valuable to getting what you want in life. Now, I'll unstick the pin on my recurring revenue, $10,000 a month. So I got so excited about this. I'm thinking, how do I do this? And I make this the main focus of my business. Recurring revenue is where my 10K comes a month. And then if I have time after that, I can still pursue some other financial income sort of things. So this is when I launched that program called the Podcast Mastermind. So the idea was 10 groups. I would actually have 5 groups that met on the first and third weeks of the month. And I would have 5 groups that met on the second and fourth weeks of the month. And I can't remember. I think those meetings might have been 90 minutes long. But that's 5 90-minute calls. No big deal. Actually, you know what? I think they were an hour. Now that I think about it, I think they were an hour. And it doesn't matter. But let's just assume for a moment that they were an hour, because this would have been likely how I thought about it in my head anyway. Today, the next level mastermind is 90 minutes. But anyway, back then, I'm pretty sure it was an hour. So that's 5 hours on this. That would be that's 5 hours of me facilitating 5 one-hour meetings during the first and third weeks of the month for 5 groups, and then the second and fourth. Now, occasionally a month will have a 5th day of the week, or 5th week of a day of a week each month. So that would be a week where I had no calls, and that happened every now and then. And that was kind of a design plan of it. Now, I shared this idea with one of my mentors, and his name is Dan Miller. And I've talked about him previously. He's the person who... And I thought I would share with him pretty much all that I shared with you. Recurring revenue, this is what you're missing. This mentor said this, and just want to let you know I was inspired by you. I'm going to create a membership program. It's going to generate $10,000 a month. And here's my plan for how I intend to do this. And so I told him I'm going to facilitate 10 mastermind groups with 10 people in each group. 5 of them will meet on the first and third weeks of the month, 5 of them on the second and fourth weeks of the month, and that's 5 calls per week. So basically 5 hours per week of me facilitating calls. And I'm like thinking, he's going to say, how brilliant, Cliff, congratulations. And he says, Cliff, I think that's a terrible idea. And I was kind of gutted. I'm like, what? And he says, no, I think that's a terrible idea. He says, man, you have no idea how much it's going to take from you emotionally and time and effort and energy to fill those groups, to manage the relationships in those groups, to it's not just the meetings themselves, it's the meeting in between the meetings and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, Dan, I see where you're coming from, but I'm a hard worker, and trust me, I know this seems like a lot. But so I know it's not just 5 hours a week. Maybe it's 10 hours a week. Maybe it's 15 hours a week each week for 4 weeks out of the month. But here's the thing. I'm already working way more than that many hours right now doing all these other things, and it's not recurring revenue. And if I'm successful at this, he goes, yeah, I think... And so he tried to tell me, he says, Cliff, he says, your goal is to get a recurring revenue of $10,000 a month from facilitating mastermind groups. Is that or is that not your total desired outcome? And I said, yes. He says, well, okay, well, then why don't you just create one mastermind group and ask 10 people to commit $1,000 a month to being in your mastermind group. And I will tell you that I'm like, listen, Dan, I love you. I know you must see something in me that I don't see in myself, but I can't think in a million years why anybody would ever pay me $1,000 a month to be in a mastermind group that I facilitate. And I'm like, come on, no. And he tried to convince me that it would be possible. And he tried to convince me that the idea that I had proposed might not be the most beneficial for me in the long run. But, I was in my earlier days and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take what you're saying into consideration. But which I did, but I still struggled with that mindset of my worth and value. And so I started 5 groups of the Next Level Mastermind with 10 people in them. And initially, as soon as I launched it and it was $100 a month, I had way more people sign up than I thought, and I did a lot of mistakes. Number one, I just had an application that says, this is what a mastermind group is. Do you agree to meet twice a month? Do you agree to make it to the meetings? Do you agree to pay financially $100 a month? And if you are, do you have a podcast? Because it was related around the topic of podcasting back then. But not limited to podcasting. But it was called the Podcast Mastermind, right? So the idea is that I'd take my community of podcasters and we would mastermind together about how to succeed in our goals in life through it with a focus on how can we communicate and build rapport and relationship with a community of people through our podcasting efforts. That's kind of what the idea was. Well, I got a whole lot of applications, and I got enough to fill 5 groups right away, and I immediately shut down the process, and I realized, okay, well, I could probably bump this up, and I did. I bumped it up to $300 a month, and I reopened it, and I filled a few more groups, and anyway, long story short, that was a terrible experience in the long run of facilitation. I did so many things wrong. First of all I said is if you have a heartbeat and $100 bill each month, you're in. That's whoa, low. Those are very low standards, my friend. And so there was a lot of people that were a part of the group that it was a challenge. There was some very highly motivated, super successful people who've done things that even at the time kind of made me feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these people are in my group. How did I attract somebody this successful? Blah, blah, blah. I feel a little intimidated just thinking that I'm facilitating a group with them in it. And then I've got somebody over here who's like just going, it's like this person, the things that they say, it's like that's so far out in the left field. I'm like, how do I manage this? And I felt like there was a lot of challenge. And so it took me a while to graciously walk a few people out of the podcast mastermind because they weren't good fits. I was adjusting the application process. I started doing interviews with people to kind of get a feel. But there were a couple people that there was some mismatch in between the members of those groups where it didn't make sense for me to transfer somebody out of a group, but at the same time, it was weird to have that person in this group with these people and managing the energy level of those groups. It was it was everything Dan warned me about, but then some. And I'm like, here's what I will tell you. I did the podcast mastermind for 2 years. And by the way, I never went beyond 5 total groups. I told you that I did 5 groups and filled them up. But remember, I walked a couple people out of I walked many people out of those first initial groups, and I filled them back up with people who were paying $300. And I got to tell you, gosh, looking back, the difference between $100 a month and $300 a month it's crazy in my mind about how I think about it today. But back then, it was crazy. But there were some people who applied at the $300 a month level who were in my mastermind group, but those people were in a group with people who were kind of grandfathered in at $100 a month, and there's a different buy-in level. It's not that big of a difference in between the two then, but it was still big enough, and you could tell the difference. And the standard for who got in beyond, when I reopened it up, was much higher. And the idea was like, well, maybe I should just gravitate all my new people into one of these groups and kind of let the other groups just kind of stay as they are. It was just so much. It was so much. You know what? I got to where the mastermind group was bringing in over $5,000 a month. Over $5,000 a month. I was still doing podcasting A to Z. I was still doing some other things. But hey, I didn't hit my goal of $10,000 a month of recurring revenue from this venture, but I have recurring revenue for the first time. And that was my first step towards a successful outcome in a desired income or desired plan to incorporate the advice of my millionaire friend, Stuart Crane. And so, yeah. After 2 years, by the way, on the second anniversary of the launch of the podcast Mastermind, I went to each meeting and said, "Hey, effective today, I'm canceling everyone's subscriptions, that for your payments to the monthly Mastermind group. I want to let you know this has been an incredible experience, but I'm shutting this down. I've got some other projects that I want to turn my attention to." And I did. I had some other opportunities that were far more profitable with far less time, effort, and energy, and especially mental and emotional energy. That, my friends, is what Dan was trying to warn me about, and boy, was he right. And so after 2 years, I shut down an incredibly successful, was at the time in my mind, highly profitable event or product called the Podcast Mastermind after 2 years. And I got to tell you, the people were upset that it's like, wait a second, we love this. You can't take this away. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm not going to take it away. How about you guys continue to meet? Choose a leader from among yourself and continue to meet. And several of the 5 groups continued to meet. And one of the groups of the next level or of the podcast mastermind continued to meet for at least 2 or 3 years after I shut down that group as a paid mastermind of one of my podcast mastermind groups. So again, I share all of this to tell you my story, to share with you my experience. This is not something that's new to me. And there's no one way to do a group. The ways that I do mastermind groups, they are not the right way. There is no such thing as the right way. There's no right format. There's no right frequency. There's no right in-person versus virtual. There's no right on paid versus free. There's no right way for any how much you charge. There is no right way. But what I will tell you is that in November 2018, after a lot of mental out of a lot of strengthening of the mind, going to the mental gym with my Tony Robbins material, Think and Grow Rich, and all the stuff that I was doing to really grow in my perspective of how life works, how success works, and just growing personally and professionally, I became convinced, you know what? I will create a mastermind group. Not one. I will create 2 groups of the Next Level Mastermind where each group will have 12 people paying me $1,000 a piece. And in November 2018, I launched it. And I took all of the experience that I've talked about, my experience in facilitating the Green Room Mastermind with myself and Pat Flynn and the 4 other highly successful people that have been meeting with us every single week. We've been doing that group for a decade. I took all of that experience. I took the 2 years of facilitating 5 groups of the podcast mastermind. I took all of my experience in all of the other in-person and online and monthly and bi-monthly and all these other groups. I took all of that experience and I said, and I'm going to do these next level masterminds this way. And I filled both groups, 24 members paying $1,000 a month within 3 months. And by the way, was it super successful throughout the whole thing? No, there's been lots of ups and downs, and I've learned even more distinctions. And I've shared that quite frequently in a podcast that I do called The Audio Journals, because I started the Audio Journal back, I think, in November 2018. So I actually, you know what? That's what it is. Okay. The Next Level Mastermind started in November 2017. That's why. I'm thinking, it's like, no, I'm not coming up on 2 years of the Next Level Mastermind. It's 3 years. It will be 3 years this November 2020 because I started in November 2017. Okay. Now, what the interesting thing is, what I was just saying is I have this podcast called The Audio Journal that I do on Patreon over at mindsetanswerman.com/audio journal. And that was started in November 2018, which is 1 year after it was celebrating the first year of the Next Level Mastermind, and also it was celebrating the first annual Free the Dream conference that I launched. So, but it was also talking about how trying to do the Next Level Mastermind and launch and market a brand new major conference called Free the Dream, how that caused me some very difficult financial issues as a result of taking my focus off of the Next Level Mastermind while I put 100% of what I was doing outside of facilitating those calls into Free the Dream. And that's all story that I've told. It's in all of the episodes of the Audio Journal podcast. But now I've learned so many different things, and I tell you what, the Next Level Mastermind on a scale of 1 out of 10, 10 being like it's super awesome. Well, I don't think there's anything being perfect, and so I'm not going to judge this on 10 equals perfect, but I'm just talking about on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning that the Next Level Mastermind is effective in carrying out the principle of the Mastermind principle for each and every member, where every single member is absolutely committed to the success of every other member at the highest level, where everybody has a ton of value to bring to the table and everybody walks away with a ton of value every single meeting, and everybody in the group looks forward to every single meeting of the Next Level Mastermind, and every week that the Next Level Mastermind meeting is their favorite meeting that they most look forward to in their week every single week. That's a 10. Well, on a scale of 1 out of 10, the Next Level Mastermind is a million. That's how awesome the Next Level Mastermind is today. It's not perfect. It's not the only way to do it, but it's the way that I've learned how to do it out of all of these things. And not only that, but as of January 2020, the price went from $1,000 a month to $2,250 a month, or you can save $2,000 a year if you just pay $25,000 up front via check. So obviously, I've raised the standards. I've also, and you'll hear this in this pre-recorded content I'm about ready to share with you. Yes, like I said, one of the longest episodes of any podcast I've ever produced before. But I promise you, if you're the right person who needs to hear this, you'll see that by giving this to you for free, you're getting well over this episode of this podcast is worth thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars if you're the right person that wants to create paid mastermind groups at this level. So anyway, I've been doing the Next Level Mastermind, and a lot of people, several of my clients also have a desire to do paid coaching at a very high level, highly paid, profitable coaching, paid mastermind groups where people are paying a minimum of $1,000 a month. They want to be able to do these things. And so they're like, Cliff, okay, so I've launched my group, or I'm launching my group. I have all sorts of questions, and I've been fielding this stuff one-on-one in people's hot seats and all this other stuff. But Kim started like, oh, man, is there just one resource? You should do a workshop on this. I'd pay $5,000, come to your house and do a 3-day workshop on everything. You could just download all your specialized knowledge from all your experience and observation of doing mastermind groups, or you could just do a deep dive. And I said, Kim, that sounds so awesome. I think I'll create a resource. I think I might create like an online course or an audio course. And I started to do that. I started to outline it, what would it look like, got really excited about outlining it. And I created an entire first episode talking about it doesn't have to be lonely at the top. And that's about as far as I went. And it was on my to-do list to do over and over again. And I'm like, I just don't want to do this. I just don't feel inspired. And I made a commitment back in January of 2020 I will not create any more content ever unless I feel inspired to do so. And so I said, Kim, I am so sorry that I've put this off. I know that you have lots of burning questions related to mastermind groups. How about we schedule a one-on-one call? A one-on-one call. It won't be a coaching call, but you and I will have a conversation that's meant to be this resource. We'll cover any topic, any question you have. I'll let you tap into all of my experience, all of my expertise, and I'm not going to have all of the right answers, but I'm going to share why I do the things that I do, how I do them, and you can pick and choose from any of that you find valuable. And she goes, that sounds awesome. And then we had this conversation, and instantly I began to share it with all of my other members of the Next Level Mastermind who are doing paid one-on-one coaching and paid mastermind groups. I have many one-on-one coaching clients that are not in the mastermind, but who are doing paid mastermind groups and coaching and pursuing that. And so I shared this conversation with them, and then I shared with them the unedited version, but then I took that 2-hour call that I did with Kim and I turned it into a 1 hour and 35-minute conversation. So I edited it down just to be something that could be used in a podcast episode. And now here I am recording a 46-minute intro to that audio. And what you're about ready to hear is, if you're the right person, this is thousands and thousands of dollars worth of value and specialized knowledge for you. And it's my gift to you. And the only thing I ask is that if you found value in this, will you send me an email, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com, and tell me that you got value out of my conversation about the mastermind logistics with Kim Rondina. Just let me know. That's all I ask. And so without any further ado, here's my resource with all of my specialized knowledge in an hour and a half conversation with Kim Rondina. The first item you said is planning here. What is the minimum resources to execute a mastermind group and why? The minimum, finding some way to bill people. And if you want to go minimum platform, send them an invoice and have them pay in front for the full year and write you a check. That's the minimum. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anything above and beyond that, you decide. But really, it's just an exchange of money is a minimum. And then as far as minimum resource, I would recommend a pro account to Zoom, which I'm pretty sure you already have.
Yeah.
So that's all you need. And I can't imagine you ever want to have a mastermind group that would outgrow beyond the number of people you can have in a Zoom meeting. So that's the minimum resources. You don't need anything beyond your weekly Zoom call and a way to bill people. Optimal resources to execute and provide a great member experience. Still, Zoom is optimal, I think. An optimal source is any kind of platform that allows people to go and put in their credit card information and have it recurring, bill their credit card on a monthly basis. Now, I currently use Stripe and Kajabi for that because I already have that platform. It is not required. And if you don't do a bunch of online courses, I wouldn't recommend what I'm using. But there are, I guess you could use like FreshBooks. If you have QuickBooks Online, I think you can send this stuff. I can tell you there are at least 100 different options for you to go in and set up something so you can send somebody a link. They enter in their credit card information and agree to set up a monthly recurring invoice to their credit card. Boom. That is an optimal setup. Discussion environments. I'm currently using Basecamp and Voxer for that. These are optimal for me. I will tell you that I was a little bit hesitant at first. When I first introduced Voxer, I got really concerned about how aggressive some people were using it. We'll get a little bit more into that later because the people who were taking advantage of that are no longer in the group, and there's a lot that can be said about that as well. But Voxer has been great for the last 4 to 5 months, and I love it. It's a great little add-on. I use Basecamp, and I know we're going to get into what resources not to use, so let me go ahead and just put that in here right now. In a million years, you could not convince me to use a Facebook group for a mastermind group. There are a couple reasons for this. Number one, there are a lot of people who refuse to do anything related to Facebook. They absolutely hate and despise Facebook, and they don't have an account, nor will they ever have one. you automatically lose those people. So you want something that's not Facebook and doesn't require that. Basecamp is not designed to be used for what I use it for, and there are a lot of drawbacks to using Basecamp. So Basecamp is not optimal for what we're doing. However, some sort of discussion group, I don't know how essential it really is, quite frankly. I mean, now that I have Voxer for the in-between, technically speaking, you could do that. And I'm not a Slack person. Have you ever used Slack before?
I'm familiar with it. I've never used it, but I'm familiar with it.
My guess is that if I were to get into it, if I wanted to, I could transition and get rid of both Basecamp and Voxer and move straight into Slack, more than likely. But I've never been a Slack user. I've downloaded Slack to interact with some other people. I played with it, and I'm like, listen, I do not understand why people want to avoid email. So I'm an email kind of guy. So
yeah. Well, and Cliff, on the Basecamp side of things, I guess as we work through this a little bit, it might unearth some of the answer. But I do like your introductions where we can get to meet a new member, your book list. There are both written and your audio files kind of get published through that medium.
Yep.
Are you saying that Slack could produce that for you? Or
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a number. As a matter of fact, there's a program called Mighty Networks, which is a platform that is available to do stuff like this. There's another platform coming out that's supposed to be a rival to Mighty Networks called Circle.io. So those are options. But anything that allows discussion threads, essentially. Yeah. And there's a ton of resources out there. Again, I just use Basecamp because it's like, okay, I just want a place where I can put a group of people by invitation only. I want to make sure that anybody who is in this group gets notifications via email so that they know something's been put into this environment. And that environment is hosting threads of conversation. Some of those threads devoted to introductions, some of those threads just to ongoing conversation, the ability to create a thread and everybody jump in on it. Just some way to facilitate online discussion between the meetings. If I were starting a brand new group and I wanted a place to discuss, I would probably use Slack today. I would say, listen, and not everybody uses Slack either. But if this is the only thing you're using Slack for, and I can convince you of the value of the conversations, just like Voxer. You weren't a Voxer user before, but now you use Voxer with us. So,
and I use it a lot.
Yep.
Then is Slack something like Zoom where the other participants don't have to pay a membership? Like,
I'm pretty sure that's how that works. Yes. Chances are you as the facilitator, if I understand, there's a lot that you can do under their free tier, but eventually you actually will get to the place where you'll want to pay at least the basic one or something like that. So some kind of discussion environment and a location for member introductions. That is something that I would do. And now the thing is member introductions, I don't think that this should be overly complicated. One of the things that you could do is you could send somebody a list of your 5 questions. Answer these 5 questions in a Word document or a word processing document and send it to me. And then you could actually package all of those together and put it in a Google Doc or whatever, and then you just have each page as somebody's introduction. And then when you bring a new member in, you say, hey, here's a PDF that you can download, open this, and you can read about each of the members in the group. That would be even simpler than what I currently do, which is here's my email. By the way, here's a link to all of the introductions. I don't know. There's no one right or wrong way, but I do know that while I've never experienced this in a mastermind in my group before, I've never had introductions like this, like where somebody's gone in and filled out their bio and stuff like that. I created this because I thought it would be valuable, and it has been valuable. So for somebody to come in, it's like, oh man, I'm getting to know more, and I'm linking back to their websites, their social media channels, and all that stuff. I think these are brilliant.
I do as well. I concur.
A place to come up with a hot seat schedule. For the longest time, I just kept that private, and I just would let people know when their hot sheet's coming up. But recently, and it's been more valuable, I think, a lot of people have liked the fact that I actually have a list of at least the next 6 to 8 weeks or whatever of hot seats scheduled, and you can click and see it. And I'm using Evernote for that. Again, you could use a Slack thread for that. You could use a Google Doc for that. There's any place to do it, but you do want to be able to produce for yourself and let other people see, or potentially let other people see, what the schedule is for upcoming hot seats. And it was really nice to have you and Leslie work together. I don't know, were you the one who did that, or Leslie was the one that did that?
She initiated it, and I had reached out to her for some marketing questions, and then she responded through Voxer with a, hey, I have a favor to ask, and then it turned into, all right, just circle back to Cliff so he knows that, because you're the one technically who's needing a switcher. Just let him know that way he'll understand that it was something that benefited you. So.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was something that, oh my gosh, I really liked how that happened, because you guys had communicated that prior to that. It would be, hey, Cliff, I'm not able to do a hot seat. What should I do? And then I would go searching, and it's like, it could be an afternoon.
Oh, well, and realize in my clinical practice that could happen, where someone would be like, I know I have a Thursday at 11 o'clock with you, but something came up with my kid's school. Can I come a different day or time that day? And I'm like, for HIPAA reasons, I can't, obviously, but I would just love, because there's so much behind the scenes where I go to text someone, I have to wait for them to text back. Then I circle back around, and they're like, well, I can't do 11, but I can do 12:30. And it's just like, how much time do I spend rearranging other people's schedule for their benefit?
Yep.
So I sense how you've had to do that. So
yeah, and it's not been a big deal with a small group such as a mastermind and stuff like that. And so I love the fact that, I mean, I look at it, it's like, hey, it's an opportunity. Any opportunity to connect with a member is a great opportunity. So anyway, so those are the optimum resources.
Any other resources to avoid, Cliff?
I can't think of any resources to avoid. Let me think. Any resources I've used in the past that I would avoid? No. Real quickly, though, weekly meeting online. Zoom is the only one that I would use at this point. Subscription payments, discussion environments, and member introductions, and a hot seat list. Those are the only things that are essential. I try to keep everything as simple as possible, because I like my life to be simple.
All right, let's go into pricing.
Yes, pricing.
I know that we've talked about it. I guess, where do fluctuations come in? When do considerations come in? Because you know darn well that not everybody's equal. Like, you have in your own groups, you have people that could charge more or less, or should charge less or more. Kind of just walk me through more the situational aspect versus the belief aspect. Does that make sense?
Sure. The situational aspect is real simple. The question is how much money do you want to make in your business on a monthly basis, based upon the lifestyle that you desire to have for yourself, the life you want to create. And so you take that number. Let's just say it's $10K per month, just for the sake of easy math for Cliff. All right. All right. So the question is do you want to have one client paying you $10,000 a month? Do you want two clients paying you $5,000 a month? Do you want four clients paying you $2,250 a month? Or do you want five clients paying you $1,000 a month? Or do you want 20 clients paying you $500 a month? Or do you want 100 clients paying you $100 a month? It's really a simple, logical math question.
Yep.
And then, of course, it becomes a belief issue. Do you believe that you could find one client to pay you $10,000 a month? Do you believe you can find two clients to pay you $5,000 a month? Do you believe that you can find four clients to pay you $2,250 a month? Wherever your belief starts, that's where I think your pricing will start. Now, the reality is most people that I would actually, I can tell you, anybody that I would bring into the mastermind group today, based upon everything I've learned from all of my mistakes, there would never be a person that I would bring into the next level mastermind that would not be able, if they desired to create a mastermind group or coaching experience where their clients would not, where their clients would pay at least $1,000 a month. And you are among that. There's no doubt in my mind that you could find clients. Now, is there a chance that you would go through the client creation process or your marketing process and you would get a ton of people that would have paid you $500 a month, but not $1,000? The answer is yes. The question still, though, is how much money do you want to make and how much work do you want to do, or how many people do you want to have to serve to earn that amount? So I would much rather work with less people and actually have to work harder on the convincing side than to be obligated to the serving side. Does that make sense?
Yep. Just as an anecdotal experience side of things, in the physical therapy world, we all graduate from our doctorate programs, go into working as a W-2 situation, where the value that the insurance companies pay us is predetermined, and we struggle with it because we don't make very much money at all. And then I started my own practice, and I get to set all the standards, right? I get to set my value. I understand what my worth is based off of, a 15-year history of understanding and differentiating the skill, the competency, the experience that I offer a customer versus anybody and everybody out there. And so I felt very comfortable doing that clinically, but it's like I'm wet behind the ears again, and I'm newbie. And the coaching aspect of it is, I feel like I'm back into being like 2 years out of school and knowing that there's people out there that perform in the realm of coaching at a much higher level than I do. Therefore, there's a ceiling, and I'm, rungs below it in essence. So I'll just say, with that being said, through our time together and through working and hearing and even being a witness to some of the hot seats that have been going on lately, that is a lot more comfortable of a space for me to be in seeing where my true capacity is versus the time served element side of things.
Yeah.
So, and the objective part is easy because that's exactly what I do with my clinical business. Is I kind of got comparative models to know that I wasn't outrageously charging. And then I started to start with a math number and worked backwards and figured out how many patients a day could I serve at a very high level in the capacity that I felt they needed to get healthy, and how much energy I had a day to do it, and how much margin I wanted in my life. And so it's familiar.
That's exactly the thing. And the only thing that's different is this is something that you don't have the same level of confidence in your ability to provide that value from the coaching side as you do in the physical therapy side, because you haven't done it as much. But the more you do it, the more you'll see that value's there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of my coaching clients are also in the realm of trying to figure out how to start their own private practice. So basically not be W-2 employees, but do their own thing. And the hardest thing for them is believing their value. Because we grow up in this model of you get $51 a visit. So you have to see 30 patients a day and you get burnt out. And so everybody tries to break the chains away from that and do their own thing. But they're the first one to say, well, it's my patients can't afford, or my patients are used to paying, a $20 copay. And I'm like, right?
Yeah.
What is that $20 offering to them? Any other cost on the kind of the behind the scenes planning side of the world?
It's just the time, effort, and energy is usually an unforeseen cost for a lot of people. Yeah. This for me is, gosh, looking back in hindsight, if I would have realized what it took to in the time, effort, and energy side away from the mastermind to go and pursue Free the Dream conference, which you've heard me talk about, man, that really took me down on the mastermind side of things to facilitating just the weekly environment. Now, with that being said, I could even argue one other thing. Up until, I would say, about 6 months ago, the mastermind group has been 40% mastermind group, 60% group coaching, which I don't think is as valuable as what has happened recently, which is, I would say it's more like 90% mastermind group, 10% group coaching, and maybe even closer to bumping up to 100% mastermind group.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd say at least the last 4 weeks have been 100% mastermind group. And I like it that way, because then I will tell you right now, the value in the meeting in and of itself, if we had nothing more than a pure mastermind group environment, that is really the most valuable thing. It's not what does Cliff know, what's Cliff's experience. It's all of us coming together. I wonder if I could have pulled off a successful paid mastermind group if I fully did the meetings like we've done the last few weeks. And then if I wasn't showing up as much in between the meetings and all that other stuff, I wonder how many people would have stuck it out. And then, of course, some of it, I ask myself the question of, if I had the right people in the group, could I have not had to commit to as much in between the meetings as well? So it's hard for me to pinpoint that it was the fact that I wasn't investing in the relationships in between the meetings. Because here's what I will say. Prior to the beginning of this year, I thought, okay, well, here's what I need to do. I need to shut down everything else, and I'm going to commit to having these meetings on a weekly basis, but I'm going to commit to showing up in the lives of these people in between the calls. And the reality is that not everybody is as interested in a lot of in between the meeting calls because they've got very busy. Let me rephrase that. They have very full, productive, meaningful lives in between their meetings. Yeah. Now, occasionally, they're more than happy to have a one-off with me and stuff like that, but they don't require it. And what I have realized, the ones who really needed that are not really, I would never bring them into the group today anyway. So the Terry Wilsons and the Kims and all, it's like, you guys don't require me to be there more. But man, when I am there, it means a lot. It doesn't have to be every month. It doesn't have to be, it's just be available and serve whenever the opportunity arises. And so, but the other costs that are unseen is just making sure it's the emotional time, effort, and energy into, these are human beings, and I definitely want to serve at the highest level.
I think the only other upfront that I haven't witnessed this directly, I think this hasn't come around with my mastermind interest. It's come in other groups that I've led in more of a clinical realm. And let me create the picture of, in the case of doing a lot of clinical leadership and mentorship, most of the people that are interested in that or part of that group have a primary gig, like a primary job. They're in the clinic, they're treating 8 to 5. They get home and they still have, on a weekly basis, have 10 hours of documentation on top of their clinical care hours, 40 hours a week. So they're stretched. So asking them for time at the end of the day or on a weekend, that's their margin, and they are resistant to giving it back or giving it in a different way.
I would push back on that.
Go ahead.
Because what I will tell you is, if you create the right mastermind group environment, your weekly meeting would be an oasis of peace and restoration, and it will be the thing that they look. See, the thing is you want to create an environment where I would encourage a 90-minute meeting personally, but where your weekly meeting is the number one thing they look forward to most that week.
Yeah. Because
those people that you're talking about, I'm all day, every day in the practice. I come home, I got 10 hours of it's this. And there's nobody on this earth that really understands just what my life is like. But if they were every week in a group of other people who are pretty much living the same lifestyle and get it and speak my language, and oh my gosh, there's a place where these people, it's like the old Cheers TV show. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and their problems are all the same. Yeah.
And it's funny, a few people that I've talked to, these are more my coaching clients that have inquired about the mastermind because I've seen the emails go out. I've kind of referenced the Next Level Mastermind, and I'm like, refreshing isn't the word that I use, but I'm like, it is a day, every Wednesday is a day where I know that I'm going to be lifted up. I'm going to be talking about meaningful things. We're not going to just be stuck in COVID land, right? And we're going to be kind of discovering different perspectives and kind of how to hold yourself in how you choose to spend the next, week of your life doing, where you give your time, energy, and resources to, and versus kind of the routine of our life and the default. So I think that I've allowed that excuse because I've lived it and I can empathize with it. But yet you're right. If the situation, if the environment creates the, I don't want to say opposition to, but if environment creates the, as you said, oasis. The excuse fades away very quickly.
It does. It does. And the one thing that I will tell you that I've learned is I am less and less interested in trying to convince anybody of the value of the group.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I want to make sure when I'm describing the group, I am explaining what the true value is. And I'll get a little bit more to that when we get onto the marketing side.
Yeah, I do see the selectivity of membership to be interesting. So I had a second applicant last week. So I sent her the link to schedule her discovery call, and it's now 5 days and she hasn't acted upon it. So I've already have a little bit of a yellow flag up in the sense of I don't want to assume what's going on in her life, but there is a little bit of, is this right? Is she committed? Is she? But only when we have that discovery call will I know. But I'm pretty comfortable, especially because what I don't want to get with is where I'm always seeing coaching as a side gig, because I can fall back on the clinical practice. Mm-hmm. Right now I can fall back on the clinical practice. So I don't need per se, the Foursquare and Prosperous Coast of if you need them or they need you, kind of that urgency side of things. So I think I'm pretty comfortable with that. But I also know that there's a couple of people that I already know that they've reached out and they would not be valuable members of the mastermind.
Yep.
And it's very clear.
Yep. Basically, I would filter those people out and just no longer pursue them. And by the way, we'll get a little bit more into this in marketing side, but I wouldn't pursue the person who hasn't reached out to schedule that call. If you've extended an invitation to schedule a call and they didn't follow through, I'd be done with that person.
Interesting.
There are plenty of other people out there who would fit your exact target audience who, when given an opportunity to schedule a call with Kim Rondina, would not pass up on that opportunity.
Yeah. And that we'll speak to it later, but that was one of Mike's questions, like kind of some of the nuances of running a smaller group initially while you're building your selective membership. So we can reach down to that later, because there is in the back of my head, if we only have 3 people right now or a smaller group, I haven't been exposed to a 3 membership mastermind and let alone facilitating it. So how does that dynamic change? And that was one of the questions that Mike had as well. So we can venture into that down below, and I think I added it in there.
Okay. Sounds good. So the next question you hear, has time of day or day of the week been an issue for applicants? Most of your participants in the group are self-employed, in the AM group anyway. So there's flexibility. What about your PM group? So as you know, I do seek people who are in a little bit more freedom of what their schedule looks like. I like those people because I am that person. People like to do life with people like themselves. So yeah. I do have that, which is nice. Now, with that being said, in the PM group, there are 2 issues. Many of them still have a day job, so they don't have that freedom and flexibility. So I have to work in the evening hours to make it possible for them to participate. I will tell you that if you ever do anything in the evenings, Wednesday evenings should be avoided at all costs, because there are a number of people from the evangelical Christian world that church equals Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. So I do know Wednesdays will automatically disqualify meetings for some people. The other thing is to keep time zones in mind, especially if you're doing an evening thing. So that for me means that, let's see, I want to make sure that people on the West Coast who have a day job that get off at 5, that they have enough time to maybe drive home and get settled. So that means at least 6 o'clock their time. I decided, listen, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do Thursdays from 7:30 to 9 p.m. That's about as late as I want to go, and that's what I chose. Now, I do have some West Coast people that have joined, and they're joining from the last 30 minutes of their day job or something like that, and they work it out. And the course, you don't want to go too late into the evening if you want to go global, because people on the globe are ahead of us. Europe is like UK is 5 hours ahead. Sweden and some other, like Rick's 6 hours ahead of us. France, Lingen was 6 hours ahead. So, just keep those things in mind. My philosophy is, what do I want my life to look like? What time is most convenient for me? And then I'm going to look for other people who will say yes to what works best for me. I know that sounds a little like egocentric, but hey, I'm doing this for me, right? This is I kind of like that. So if I had to do it all over again, would the Next Level Mastermind AM group start at 9:30 in the morning? It wouldn't. It would start at 10:30 in the morning. Marketing. So first of all, you said any experience of successful marketing outside of the podcasting to grow interest, the number of heck yeses. So first of all, I only do the Prosperous Coach method today. I actually hate it when I get an application from my website. I do.
Okay.
Since I've learned that, now the thing is am I going to take my sales page off of my website? No, I'm not. And do I get a couple of people who apply through the website? Yes, I do. But you know what? Here's what I will tell you. Anybody basically, I treat an application to the Next Level Mastermind from my website no differently than just a random email from a stranger. Hey, Cliff, I listened to your most recent podcast episode. I thank you so much. It spoke to me. You applying for the Next Level Mastermind is no different than that person. You begin stage 1 of connecting. Just because you applied for the Next Level Mastermind does not get you into a 90-minute coaching experience with me or a discovery call. So I'll just tell you, I just had 2 people apply for the Next Level Mastermind, and then they filled out every question on bless you. Every question on that application. And I read it all, and it all sounded great. But boy, have I learned my lesson. Slow down to speed up. Let's just say, Kim, you filled out the application. I'm one in. I can afford it. This is the thing I've been looking for, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Kim, tell me real quickly here. In your application, you said this, this, this. I'd like to ask you this question, this question, this question. And so what I'm doing is I'm auditioning you. It's like, those questions were great, your answer's there, but I want a little clarification. Can you tell me this? Now, you notice I emailed you. I say, hey, thank you for submitting this application. I just have a real quick question. Can you clarify what you meant over here? And you said you're struggling with this. Have you tried doing this? What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert questions to see, number one, are you coachable? Are you the type of client that I would want to work with? I want to actually audition you to the point where there's enough here that will convince me that I discern that you are very likely to be a great fit, an awesome, perfect fit for my mastermind group. And if there's any red flags whatsoever in any of those questions, I don't care how much time you spent filling out the application for my mastermind group, you do not get invited into a call with me.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that's massively different today is everybody goes through a very hefty vetting process in the connecting/invite phase.
What has that audition helped you weed out?
Oh gosh,
because I understand the purpose of the process. The question more is how is that process, or what have you discovered through that process that the application is missing, or that the application is
the application will never be able to give me what I'm looking for. Understood. What is it that the audition helps you discover? Okay, so I think this is something that I came up with, and this is a new thing. So I just started this. So I was listening to an episode where Rich Lipton was working with one of his clients in his podcast, and he said, do you have a description of who it is that you're looking to work for? And they gave one attribute or something like that, but it was really struggling with anything beyond that. And then he's like, well, tell me about your favorite people you've ever worked with. And it's like, oh, that's easy. That's so-and-so. And then it's like, okay, well, tell me about so-and-so. What do you like about work? What is it that fills you with energy because you work with that person? And then it got me to thinking, I want to create a list of my favorite client attributes. So I actually went through all of my existing members of the Next Level Mastermind, my one-on-one clients, and I wrote down the names of the people that when I talk to them, I'm filled with more energy after the call than I was before the call. All right, so I have a list of those people, and I said, now, what do all these people have in common? Listen to this, Kim. They have a desire, capacity, and a willingness to serve others at the highest level. Now, those are three different things. One, they have a desire. There's a lot of people who want to help people, all right?
Yep, I agree.
Never do anything with it. Now, there's a lot of people who want to help. They have the desire, but they don't have the capacity. Their life has no margin. They have no ability whatsoever to serve others. They want to, but they're just drowning in their own circumstances of life, all right? Now, I'm looking for people who have the desire, the want to, they have the capacity to serve others, and a willingness to serve others. Now, more than what I'm talking about, that willingness is that I don't care what it costs, I'm going to find a way to show up and serve others. So that's my client. And then the next lines, it sounds like it's the same thing over again, but it's not. My clients have a strong commitment to being of service to others, even if it is inconvenient for them. I'm looking for people. Now, specifically, I don't want people who allow themselves to consistently be walked all over. I don't want people like that. But I'm looking for people who understand that, you know what, I know you said that for all of 2020, you only work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You have no scheduled calls on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. This, by the way, is the second call I've had this year that has not been on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I did this one for you, and I did one call for somebody else. But it's a commitment to be of service. It's like it's not that big a deal. I just have to remember not to sleep in until 11 o'clock on Monday, which I did. It was awesome. Okay, so they have a strong commitment to being of service to others. Here's the next one. Now, by the way, this is not a requirement of membership. It's just something that makes them. It puts a couple extra check marks in their favor in the good column. They have a significant amount of financial margin, meaning that affording my coaching is not an issue. By the way, I just want to stress this a little bit more. This is not a requirement. What I will tell you is I'm more than happy to take somebody who is making, let's just say they're full-time self-employed. Let's just say they want to be a coach. They are a coach. They're currently generating around $5,000 per month. I've discerned that, man, they are so underestimating the size of their community, the number of things I've heard about that from people in their community who love them. They're doing a membership site with thousands of people who are paying $29 a month. I mean, it's some really ridiculous stuff going on. I mean, if this person really got serious, they could be making at least $20K a month just with this other stuff. And they want to. They just had some belief problems about it and stuff like that. So here's the thing. I'm willing to take somebody who is full-time self-employed, have been building their online community for the last 5 to 7 years, but they've been full-time self-employed for the last 2 years, and they're making about $5K a month, and they're in significant amount of debt, and they're struggling financially. I would take somebody like that, and I'd have no problem at all bringing them in at $27,000 a year or $2,250 a month if I was convinced that they met all of the other guidelines here. And they said, Cliff, I got to be honest with you, it's going to take me a lot. I'm willing to do this because I know, because of our 2 90-minute experiences and what I've accomplished over the last 4 weeks of my life, I know for the fact that if I had access to you and a group like this, I know this because now just through the 2 90-minute calls that I've already have with them, they went from $5,000 a month to now they're at around $7,000 to $8,000 a month. And I have no doubt within 90 days, they're going to be around $15K a month. Then would I have a problem charging them that and letting them go into putting that on a credit card at this time? I wouldn't have a problem with that. So there's a lot to be said about the financial margin, but I got to tell you, and I will tell you this. There are some people who have financial margin. There's a number of people that I've worked with over the years that have said the phrase, I don't ever have to work again another day in my life. Financially. If I lived to 80, I would never have to work again a day in my life. I will tell you, that's really awesome. I love that. Some of those people, this isn't all of them, but some of those people are the most difficult, most challenging people to work with because they have very little financial leverage to make things happen. But not only that, but they're just dabbling sometimes. Now, that's not always the case. So I just say this, that financial margin is an attribute that I like, but it's not always a check mark. It sometimes is a big red X when it comes to their auditioning process. Let's just say through auditioning, you have to have like 10 check marks, green check marks, and you have to avoid 3 red X's. All right. Or 1 really big red X. So anyway, but I like significant financial margin. All right. The next one is a high level thinker that gravitates towards a positive outlook on life. So I like people who who are able to step outside of their circumstance and see a bigger picture that they're playing a part in, and they're able to actually say, you know what, in spite of all of these huge challenges, I know that there's a seed of opportunity here for me. I'm looking for that kind of mindset. I'm looking for leaders, even though the person may not recognize that leadership is one of their superpowers. But for me, looking at them, you're such an amazing leader. I mean, it's clear. All right. I'm looking for high achievers. And specifically, I'm looking for people who have achieved things that in their life that most people would never even dare to dream of doing. Or most people even struggle to think that would be possible. But to them, they sometimes even take for granted just how special their achievements are. That seems to be a majority of the people that I work with. There are some people that I have that are high achievers, and they know that they're high achievers, and they're very proud, and they recognize just how special they are. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I like those people.
How do you process through, is this a limiting belief? So, for example, healthcare providers, and with COVID going on right now, I think you see the humility and grace in which they just show up and they give it themselves, and they downplay a lot of what they do offer and contribute. And they are not self-promoters. Like, there are very few that are self-promoters. So I guess how would a high achieve, like, how would you unearth someone being humble in a moment, in a written or in a verbal means, I guess?
So high achiever is real easy for me. First of all, anybody who makes it through all the medical school requirements and has a degree, that automatically puts them in a category. Most people don't go and get such an advanced medical degree. So that immediately puts them in an achievement category. So the question is, what my application does ask this, because I do know this is on there. Tell me about the top 3 things that you've achieved that you're most excited about.
Yeah.
So, and I want to hear. By the way, I've raised 3 kids and none of them are in prison. That's fine. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
But the thing is I'm looking for achievement. I want to know people. It's like, you know what? I've got my golf score down to this ridiculously low golf score. I'm really excited about that. I've mastered this skill. I'm just looking for people who are out there who are consistent. And it comes to another thing, but people who have done things that most people don't dare to dream of. They dare to go out and it's not just related to business. It's what have you achieved? Yeah. I mean, somebody's been married for 30 years. That's an achievement. Most people don't get there.
Yeah. Okay. I was seeing that through a unilateral lens of everybody that I speak to has some advanced degree, right? So it's not so much comparative.
And see, that's the thing. Everybody that you're used to doing life with, here's what I will tell you. High achievers tend to do life with other people who are just like them. So it makes a lot of sense. But you realize not everybody has a high level degree. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, Kim, you take for granted the fact that that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes. And my father raised me to very much have humility, and so I have some limiting beliefs that I work through daily. So, all right, any other attributes?
Yeah, I want to go through these because these are great. Lifelong learner. They are devoted to unceasing personal and professional growth. Unceasing, never ending. They're always looking to learn, to grow. Now, the next one, this one I love. They have marketable skills in abundance. marketable skills in abundance. Now, I wrote this little line after that. Because of their high achieving nature and their commitment to unceasing personal and professional growth, they have established a long list of skills that serve themselves well and either do or could serve others at a high level. Here's the next one.
Yeah.
They are extremely coachable. And what they are able to receive an insight through a conversation and immediately see how that insight can be implemented for themselves moving forward. So my favorite thing is in a conversation, how does that look? I love having a conversation. Somebody has a limiting belief. They're arguing for their limiting belief, and then I ask them a question that exposes it for the lie that it is. And then they say, oh. And I can just sit there, and for about 30 seconds, they don't say a word, because now they're actually saying, man, I can see, they're not verbally saying anything, but I can tell they're reevaluating their past and saying, man, how would my life be different today if I would have known what I just learned 5 years ago? And wow. Yeah. And they're actually seeing a picture of the future of what their life is going to look like, how it's going to change as a result of this insight. And you can you can see that comes out in 90-minute calls all the time, and I'm looking for people who have that ability. I'm not looking for people who can get an insight and then I have to teach them how they can use that insight moving forward. You know, I want somebody who's coachable, who doesn't need. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I will tell you this: the next one is self-motivated self-starter. I will not be an accountability coach.
I call it a cheerleader.
Yep.
I agree with that.
I've had a number of people say, Cliff, you know, the reason why I want to be a part of this group is because I need somebody to just hold me accountable to the things I say I'm going to do. And that immediately is one big, huge X. You're just like, dude, I don't say this to them, but that's a red X in the other column when I'm auditioning people. It's like they're going to have to have a lot of other green check marks to balance that one out.
So I have to ask this because that feels like that comes from a place of pain versus, you know, you said, I identified the people that brought me energy, lifted me up, and I was excited to get off a call with them. And then I wrote down like their common attributes. That one feels like it came from the opposite.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So all of these are the opposite because these came out of the pains, because the people who are the opposite of any of these are the ones where I get a text message and, hey, Cliff, can we get on a call? It's like, okay, they're ready to give up. They want to drop from their financial commitment to the group. The life is bad. They can't. It's like, you know, it's happened again. And if I can avoid, I come away from most of those calls emotionally drained, and I want to go sleep for 3 hours after I get off the call with them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can correlate that to a clinical client very easily. There's the patients that you see them on the schedule and you're like, hell yeah, this is going to be a fantastic hour. And then there's the patient that you're like, all right, you just have to flip a script in your mind and you have to figure out what space to hold. And you have to, you know, discover a means in which you can help them in their current state. I don't fire many patients. I fired a few over my 4 years in clinical practice or my own business, but I totally know what that looks like. So,
yep.
All right, which one's next?
There is one more thing here with some caveats. It says they struggle to find others who are performing in life at their level. So basically, here's what I mean by that. These people are the ones who would identify and resonate with it's lonely at the top. When faced with a problem, they rarely have someone to turn to who can give them honest, frank, and insightful advice. Now, some of these people have people that can turn to them and say some honest stuff about what they feel, but the reality is they don't understand their world. So any feedback or insight that they give, it's like, listen, I have no experience with what you're talking about, but this is what I would do if I was in that situation. Which, how can they say that? Because they've never been in that situation. So These are people who have no idea. They don't have any other high-achieving, high-level people who are dealing with the kind of stuff that they're dealing with. And then they rarely have someone who they can bounce ideas off, who understands life at their level.
Yeah.
So when I say that I'm auditioning people what I'm looking for is I'm looking for somebody who meets a majority of all of those attributes. And so what I'm doing is I'm asking questions in the connect phase. In the connect phase, I am asking questions to see if they will say something that either gives them a red X on any of these attributes or puts them in a couple green check marks that they actually are checking off a couple of these. And as soon as I have enough connections with this person, so you submit your application for the next level mastermind and say, I definitely want in. Cliff, can I start this week? I've got the money. Let me in. I don't invite you into a coaching experience. I ask you a couple questions in an email and I wait for you to respond. And then I look to see if it's like, and I try to put something coachable. I try to ask them a question. Hey, you say one of your biggest struggles is this. Can you tell me more about that? And I'll wait for they tell me more about it. And they express a limiting belief in there. No problems at all. Everyone has limiting beliefs. So I ask them a coaching style question. What about this? If this were true instead of that, what would you do differently? How would life be different? And I look to see if they can actually receive that coachable insight and prove to me that I guess I could do this. Well, I'll tell you what, let me ask you this. If you were to, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to do this? And they'll say, well, you know what, I could probably pull that off in the next couple of days. Do me a favor. This time next week, write to me and tell me what life is like or what results you got from doing that activity. Let me know. And so I wait for them to email me back and tell me what it was because they said, hey, I really need to do this. I was like, well, go do that. Tell me what the results are. Let me know. Now, here's what I will tell you, Kim. I no longer have a marketing follow-up system.
Okay.
And I'm a sales guy all the way back to the early days of sales. I no longer have a follow-up system. My follow-up system is assignment. And if you respond and act on the assignment that I gave you. If you fail or fail to act on any of the assignments or hey, reach out to me after you've done this kind of thing, then you've disqualified yourself automatically. Now, that's a pretty high standard, but the thing is, I want to operate at life at a pretty high level, and I want to operate with action takers. I have learned the hard way of how much energy goes into people who don't operate in this life at that way. And so I don't have a follow-up system anymore.
Thus, your recommendation on the applicant who is 5 days post invite and hasn't scheduled. She obviously hasn't followed up, and she's not an action taker. And even if it's not the right time right now, or there's other variables, you don't want to consistently have to navigate and manage those at the cost of other people, other opportunities.
Yeah, I'm going to immediately I'm going to immediately ignore that I ever had any engagement with that person. If they reach out into the future, they'll have to audition probably a little bit harder than they would had they not failed to reach out to me the first time.
Yeah.
It will take them longer to get into one of my 90-minute coaching experiences than before. Again, I protect my 90-minute weekly I'd rather have empty 90-minute coaching slots on my calendar than to fill them with people who haven't auditioned well through the connect and invitation phase.
To what extent would you hold on to how you run things now versus a discovery phase of our own?
Well, one of the things that I would love to do as a result of offering this environment and access to me is I'd love to allow you guys to avoid all the heartache, pain, suffering, and failures that I've experienced over the last 10, 20 years of my life. And I'd love for you to start living life at the highest, most possible level you could possibly attain, which I would encourage you to higher standards. Now, again, that I would encourage you to higher standards. If you say, Cliff, that's all well and good, but if it's okay with you, I think I'm going to go ahead and maybe let a couple more people slide through. That's fine. Sometimes you need to learn things the hard way. Trust me, I'm that guy. Kim, I'm going to tell you this. Stop me if you've heard this story.
All right.
Back in, I think it was 2011, I wanted to create a mastermind group. I wanted to create a stream of income in my business for the first time. I had never had recurring revenue at all in my life. And I had a multi-millionaire friend of mine. He says, Cliff, you need to, you know what's missing in your business model is recurring revenue. You need something where people consistently month after month and I'm like, you're right. I want 10K a month of recurring revenue. So how can I do that? And I thought about membership program and how many people would I have to serve at $29 a month, $49 a month. And it's like, you know what I want? I want 100 people who will pay me $100 a month. That's good math.
Yeah.
And so, and I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll create 10 mastermind groups.
I think you've shared this either with me or in a mastermind discussion or on a podcast, but you basically
10 mastermind groups
understood what it would feel. And he basically told you we're crazy.
Yeah. He says, I think that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Because he says, if your goal is to get $10,000 a month, why don't you just find people who will pay you $1,000 a month and just start one group with 10 people? And I said to him, there's no way that's possible. That's never going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and not to mention the fact, and of course back then I would have used different language, but I see it for the lie that it was. I mean, it wasn't a conscious lie, but here's the lie that I said. Listen, Dan, what you don't understand is there's a lot of people that I desperately want to serve that they can't afford $1,000 a month. And I would hate not to have a mastermind group with them in it. So, I think that offering these lower costs so that I can work with, it's basically, I feel uncomfortable and unworthy of charging a higher amount is what was really going on.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, familiar.
Yep.
No longer.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, listen, man, if I could avoid people starting these mastermind groups with, I don't want people to experience some of the pains. I mean, this next level mastermind experience, it's incredible what I have today. I mean, this is unbelievably awesome what I have today. Would I recommend lowering the standards, because you're new? I wouldn't recommend them. I would recommend that you take everything that I've learned and realize this is all possible for you today. If I tell you this is possible for you today. Which everyone in the AM group of the Next Level Mastermind that's pursuing this definitely could have all of these things. And the reality is if you're in a position where you don't have to have people saying yes financially, which, by the way, I love what Rich Lichtman says. If you're in a place where you need these potential clients that you're working through the Prosperous Coach Method with, if you need them to say yes, pause everything and go get a job and create that income somewhere else so that you don't need these people to say yes.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I probably have to revisit my relationship with the two opportunities that I have and what they mean and how they're serving our household and kind of where they're serving my growth as far as my own personal vision and kind of my 3-year plan. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
That's the whole thing. So no, I wouldn't recommend starting anything lower than what Cliff is able to achieve today, because I can tell you right now, I'm not as special as everyone thinks that I am. I'm really not. I mean, I'm a special person. I fit all of these attributes that I've read off to you. They're all me. Right? That I fit every single one of those attributes, but so does everyone in the group that I would encourage to hold themselves to these same standards. There's nothing so special about me that Kim, you couldn't do, that Mike Skiff couldn't do, that John Sanders couldn't do, that Leslie Graham couldn't do, that Danielle Weeb couldn't do, that all of them, everybody, you look at every single person in the AM group who is in the AM group today, I have full confidence could pull off all of the things at the highest standards that I set for myself today.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I think it's kind of like, I don't want to say permission's not the right word, or invitation, but there's an accumulation of learning experiences. And, to simplify it, there's a reason why we're all in the mastermind. Mm-hmm. We're all in the next level. And a lot of it's being challenged, discovering our true capacities versus our believed capacities, is sharing it and expressing it in ways that are genuine to ourselves. So I think sometimes I get in the process mode versus the who am I mode. Like what is it that all the questions about how the mastermind and what the opportunity I'm creating, how it's a reflection of my gifts, my interest in helping others not go through the pain that most of us do in our profession. So,
yep.
Yeah. All right.
And I will tell you, I have coaches and mentors in my life, and they're always saying, Cliff, no, seriously, that is a limiting belief. You could definitely charge more. I can tell you when you've heard stories, I'm sure, multiple times of the number. So Dan says, no, why don't you charge $1,000 a month for 10 people? That was many, many years ago. And that could never happen. Now, nobody gets into the next level mastermind for less than $2,250 a month. I mean, come on. Which I can tell you, Mike Skiff and Terry Wilson, both of them in at this level, it took a lot of courage. I didn't have confidence. It took courage to invite them at this level. But man, I'm thrilled that I did, because I have the capacity to serve those guys at a much higher level. And because of the extra margin that comes from that, I have the capacity to serve everyone at the highest level, at a higher level, and all of that stuff. And that's the new standard. And now the more I do that, the higher in the realization. I actually have somebody, Kim, who has had 5 complimentary 90-minute coaching experiences, that after the second one I proposed, and he says, Cliff, if it was $1,000 a month still, I'd be a hell yes right now on the spot. And I said, he said, but at $2,250, it would take me several months before I could do some things. I want to pay down debt. And this was all before the COVID crisis.
Right.
And I held to my standard. I did not do what I did in the past, which is, well, let me go ahead and make a special offer to you. No, the standard is here. And so I would rather serve him more for free through 90-minute coaching experiences once a month until he's at a place where he is a hell yes, or I determine that he's got enough red X's in his life that I would no longer want to pursue him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, even though I will tell you he's on this ongoing process, but I will tell you what, he's been through 5 90-minute coaching experiences. I can tell you right now, I've already got a plan for the 6th 90-minute coaching experience, and I would be willing to do more. But here's the thing: do you think there's any to-do items for me to follow up with him, and have ever been?
No.
So we just had our 5th 90-minute coaching experience, and I said, hey, what are you going to do as a result of this? And he gave me the 1, 2, 3 things that he's going to do. And I said, I'll tell you what, how long will it take you to do this? Do you think you can do those within the next week? He says, yes, I will have these done within 1 week. If I want to tell you about a book that I think would help you. Do you think you could finish this book in 2 weeks? It's only 6.5 hours. He says, yes. I said, I'll tell you what, if you do these 3 things and you read this book, I want you to schedule a call with me. Just do me a favor. I want you to go and do those items, get that book, and once you get somewhere around halfway through the book, I want you to then reach out to me and ask me for a link to schedule a 6th complimentary 90-minute coaching experience with me. Done. Now, has he scheduled that call yet? Not yet. Do I have, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is he to book it? I guarantee you he will book it. There's no question in my life. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for COVID, he and his family would be really struggling right now. But because of the things that he started doing for his online virtual summit that he'd been putting off for 3 years, he actually, before COVID even started, he had already finished 95% of his online virtual summit. And as soon as people went into isolation, he then launched his summit, had over 500 people on it.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm willing to serve somebody for months for free before I lower my standard of what I charge in the environment that I'm protecting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Not only does it make sense, the logistics of it makes sense, but also that the purpose of the why, the truth of the why behind it. So yeah, I like it. And it also speaks to all the attributes in which you're defining who is the part of the membership. So like you said, the green check marks or the red X's and so forth. So yeah, there's purpose. It's multi-purposed, right?
Yep.
On both sides.
Exactly right. So that's for me, audition. That if there's one thing that has radically changed my life is I flipped the script. And you've heard this before, but I'll say it again. It used to be I used to try to convince people that I and my mastermind group environment would be worthy of your investment. And now, regardless of how much money you are willing to pay me, you have to convince me that you're worthy of my investment.
And this is a question that came from Mike as well. Knowing that we're likely to both launch with a smaller number of people, any insights, any perspectives, any potential opportunities with a smaller group?
So first of all, I want to let you know that both groups of the Next Level Mastermind started with me and one other person and remained that way for, I think, approximately 6 weeks in both groups. So okay. I would say as soon as you have your first person who has jumped through all the hoops, you start meeting on a weekly basis. It'll seem more like a group coaching call. It'll seem like a one-on-one coaching experience more than anything. But as soon as you can add that second person who makes it through all of the auditions, then you bring that second person in. And make sure that you let people know from the beginning when you start with the group, the intention is that the group will reach this size and whatever that size is. I recommend 10 or 12 or whatever the number is for you. But the idea is that that's what's going on here. And there are benefits to the one-on-one in the small group, and there are benefits to the larger group. And I don't think let me tell you, there are some real awesome attributes to a group with 3 people that meet together on a weekly basis that can never be accomplished with a group that has 12 people in it. And there are things that can happen in a group of 12 people in a mastermind group that could never be accomplished with 3 people in it. And I don't think one is any better than the other. They're just different dynamics. And the group's dynamic will consistently shift with the size of the group, one way or the other.
Each of us that has a group going right now are probably created an expectation, or not an expectation, but an interest level as far as the number of members. And anything below feels like we have to fill that gap, and that's not really what we have to do. It's right, because we're thinking at it from the perspective of the audience, of the member, is they were going to be one of 10 and now they're one of 3. And we flip the script in a sense of that opportunity that one of 3 imparts upon them as far as the more committed time to them as an individual.
Yeah, and that reminds me of the old days of my one-on-one coaching. It's like, listen, remember the opening keynote to Free the Dream? You saw that, right?
Yep.
It's like, listen, when I brought you in and I told you it was going to be $300, I told you were going to have an hour with me, but I just solved this in 5 minutes, so I can't send you this invoice. So basically, I haven't provided you the value, because in my mind, for me to provide value, I had to give you an hour of my time, which what you're saying, this is no different than for me to have an effective, valuable mastermind group experience, it requires 10 people in here. And because I don't have 10 people, I'm afraid you're going to leave me because you didn't get what I promised you. So here's for you, Kim, and for anybody else that listens to this, stop promising anyone a group of 10 people, because that's not what you're offering them. What you're offering them is the mastermind principle, which happens with 2 or more people. And basically what that is Kim, you, no matter how freaking amazing you are, which you are, by the way, you are absolutely limited to seeing the world from your perspective.
Absolutely.
You will always have that limitation. You will be limited by your experiences of the past, your education, your financial resources, the habitual ways that you think, and all these other things. You are always going to be limited to seeing opportunities from your perspective. Me, Cliff Ravenscraft, as awesome and as freakishly awesome as I am always going to be limited to seeing the world from my perspective. But when you and I come together, we together can have a conversation about a problem that either one of us is facing, and we will come up with solutions together that neither of us could have ever in a million years come up with on our own. Mm-hmm. That's the mastermind principle. That's what you're offering.
Yeah.
And with each additional person, the value exponentially grows as long as you're bringing in the right people to the group.
Yeah. And then the only last thing is going to be the rules of engagement. So right now, the 3 participants I have, This is experience number 1 in a mastermind. It's more to establish a framework of interaction rather than, I know rules kind of sound authoritarian. That's not the intention. It's more of defining those principles in which people engage. You find it necessary, or how is that navigated? How have you navigated that in the past?
I navigate it through a conversation up front. A couple of things that I share with all members who are thinking about joining the group is like, listen, this I think you'd be a great fit for this. I think it will serve you in ways that, looking back, this will be the greatest experience you've ever been through. There are a couple commitments that I ask you to make, though. Number 1, we meet together every single week for 90 minutes. And if you're contemplating saying yes to this opportunity, to this invitation to join our group, you're actually committing, number 1, that you will make our weekly meeting your highest priority in your business work schedule. That's not to say that you can't ever miss a meeting, but it shouldn't be consistent. You should consistently be there most of the meetings. If there are 52 meetings in the year, you should at least be at 48 of them. Again, I know things can, but I'm just saying this is the kind of everyone is committed to the meetings like this. Now, let me tell you something. I know you haven't been in a meeting yet, but I promise you this: if you actually accept this and you're committed to this, I promise you'll not only not see this as an obligation, you will actually look forward to this meeting more than any other thing you schedule in your business. I promise you. That's the kind of environment we have. So I say that in conversation. Number 2, the other thing is I want you to know that this is a significant financial commitment, and it is a 1-year minimum commitment. So you're signing up and you're saying that I will be in this for a year. Now, my hope and desire is that at the end of the 1 year, you'd never dream of leaving. In fact, I have people who've been in the Next Level Mastermind since it started more than 2.5 years ago. But after 1 year, you have the freedom to leave if you want, or whatever the case may be. But this is a 1-year commitment to this group. The only thing I ask you is that if you ever decide that you want to leave after your 1 year's up, that you commit to giving me at least a 30-day notice so that I have the time to use my Prosperous Coach method to replace you in the group so that I don't take a significant financial hit in my monthly income. So if you're planning at leaving at the end of your 12-month commitment to the group, let me know on the 11th month that you plan on that being your final month, and everything's perfectly fine. Or if you stay in the group for 18 months but you want to leave on the 19th month, just give me a 30-day notice. And I want you to know the commitment that every person agrees to is every single member of this group is committed to bringing their expertise, education, experiences, and insights to serve everyone else. Everybody is 100% committed to the success of every other member of this group. That's the third thing that I mentioned.
How do you know when to build beyond 1? So if you say he has 5 in one group, like what's the tipping point to add a second group? And you've alluded to it in the opportunity of someone's a heck no because of potentially the time of day or the day of the week. That's an opportunity. Are there any other opportunities where you start number 2?
Yeah, well, let me tell you my thinking first is, first of all, I would think about capacity. And also, number 1, have the first group that I would never create a second group at the same time as a first one. In fact, I would encourage anyone and everyone to absolutely, and I used to say this as the podcast answer man. I would say, listen, if you're thinking about launching more than one podcast and you've never had a podcast before, do me a favor. Professionally, I'm going to ask you to make a commitment. You will not create a second podcast until you have actually been podcasting for a minimum of 6 months. Now, by the way, if you choose to ignore that, that's perfectly fine. But later down the road, you may come to understand why I've asked you to make that commitment. All right? And this is coming from a guy who launched his second podcast just weeks after his first one, and I produced over 30 different almost 40 different podcasts and over 5,000 podcast episodes. So trust me, I say what I say out of experience. Focus all of your mastermind group facilitation and marketing and all. Focus everything you've got for mastermind group into a single group for at least 6 months. Make all of your mistakes there and all the other stuff before you launch a second group. Because I can tell you right now, I can't begin to tell you the number of times when I actually had to go in and I realized mistakes that I've made, and I had to go in and apply the fixes to those to 2 different groups at the same time. And that's a real huge challenge. So number one, I would wait until you had at least 6 months of experience before launching a second group, just because you want to get a good feel for what you're doing before you go launching a second one. The second one is how much time, effort, and energy do you have? And also, how much when you do an energy audit, an energy audit, how does your mastermind group stack up? So that do you get fired up? Do you find yourself really motivated after a call? And how does that compare to other streams of income in your business? Or do you find yourself more energy drained after those calls? You may learn that having one group is your maximum, or maybe you may learn after within 6 months that, you know what, I'd rather have 8 one-on-one coaching clients than a weekly mastermind group call. That's a very real possibility. So those are all questions to ask, and those are things that you want to find out, and you could usually find those answers within 6 months. So that's why I say don't start a second one until you've become convinced that a first one is operating well, that you got a good grasp on what it looks like for you, because your group does not have to look like the Next Level Mastermind. The other thing is, when is it time? I would say that a group starts to max out. 12 people. I've had 12 people in both groups of the Next Level Mastermind, and they've been incredibly effective, with the exception of all the mistakes that I've made in the past, as far as my non-auditioning days and and all the things that I've learned. I think if the AM group of the Next Level Mastermind had all of the group members that are currently in it today, and the only new people that come in fit all of the criteria of everything I talked about today, I have no doubt that if we had 12 members in this group, it would be so freaking phenomenal. It's going to be out of this world. Once I get around 12 people, and then I had a bunch of people who would want to be in a group, I would launch a second group after 12 people.
I think that energy audit is a huge variable, because there's a lot. It's like the honeymoon period, right? We get excited about a new and discovering a lot about ourselves in that space. And then there's the reality of it, and there's the sustainability of it, and there's the operational side of it, and just asking yourself, was it what you thought it was going to be? And that takes time. So I think that's a great recommendation. And we definitely know there's energy vampires in our life, and your audit, everything that we've talked about today is intended to hit your sweet spot, from the clarity around your purpose with it, to making sure that the right people are both giving and receiving. And that also drives the long-term viability of it in your interests. Yep. So I get it. I like it. 2 more things: similarity in peer group versus diversity in a peer, as far as peer groups. So obviously, Next Level Mastermind, AM group, we come from different backgrounds, to say the least. Our attributes might be similar, but our ways of life and our ways of generating our revenue and kind of our professional identity is very different. So thoughts as far as pros and cons on either side of that fence?
I think there are pros and I don't. By the way, I have a hard time seeing cons. So I think there are pros to either side. How's that? If I can focus on the pros. So the pros of having everybody be physical therapists wanting to improve their physical therapy career path. I think there's a lot of pros to the fact that you're all speaking the same language. You all kind of understand each other's world. There's a lot of value and everything can be there's a lot of synergy that can be built in that. One of the benefits of the diversity of different backgrounds professionally is that you get a diversity of different experiences and background of education and environment. I mean, gosh, think about all the legal things that we've learned, from Casey and from Neil. I love getting into and understanding things from a legal perspective, but not even just understanding things from. It's like they bring their expertise of law, but they actually bring in a different way of doing business, a different way of what that world looks like. I love that. I love the international flair. I love the fact that, we have a direct line into understanding something most of the people in the world do not understand. We hear the news media say Sweden has not applied the whole stay-at-home orders and stuff like this, right? But we have somebody who's on the inside who can really tell us what life is like during coronavirus and what the real things are going on in Sweden without the bias of the media. I love the fact that we just have that insight into a global crisis that impacts us, and we can only know what's going on in Sweden through the filtered message that they want us to think about what's going on in Sweden. Where I love that, I love diversity overall. I can tell you right now, I have people who want to do mastermind groups for only Christians, and I obviously don't have that, and that's intentional for me. It was a decision. I don't want just a bunch of Christians in my group. I want a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds, different way of thinking. I want that diversity. So me, I strive for diversity. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people who think, Cliff, I can't believe you have a group with women in it. Of course I have a group with women in it. I want to be exposed to the way women see the world. I want all of this. I can tell you right now, I've always had women in my mastermind groups, and I am a better husband because I have women in it. I'm a better father to daughters because of the things I've heard from the women in my Next Level Mastermind, and I serve women in my content and other products and services better because of women in my mastermind group. So, it's just like, I love diversity. So I can tell you, I'm a huge fan of the pro of diversity.
As you were talking through that, I recognize that even if PT is somewhat defining, there's still diversity within that, in the fact that I have new graduates, I have business owners, I have individuals that have worked in a hospital system versus an outpatient private practice. I have people that work in neuro versus pediatrics. So if it grows beyond that, that just becomes organic in what we're doing and the message that we're sharing, because it really isn't a business mastermind. It is, and it's not really a PT mastermind at that. It's a lot more about how we show up to our patients and how we show up for ourselves in this mask of being a physical therapist, and what that looks like over the journey of our lives, and how do we enrich that journey as much as possible.
Well, and the thing is, and it goes back to what I said, the whole thing is, you're not selling a mastermind group. What you're offering is access to the mastermind principle in an incredibly healthy environment. See, the thing is it's not so much, is this going to help me attain my personal goal, blah, blah, blah. Basically, I think every person has a desire to become the best that they can be. And it goes back to what I said before. Every human being is absolutely 100% hardwired, limited by their own experience. They cannot see the world beyond what their current perspective of the world is. I have 2 products right now. I have mastermind groups, and then I have one-on-one coaching. But all 100% of my products are mastermind principle related. As a coach, I get on a 90-minute conversation with a one-on-one coaching client, and I am making use of the mastermind principle for them. And that's why I love the Prosperous Coach method. And so when I try to tell somebody, how can you, so some people, by the way, and you haven't asked this question or yet, how can you use 90-minute coaching experiences to give people an experience of what it would be like to be in a mastermind group? And that is exactly what a coaching experience is.
Mm-hmm.
This entire conversation here has been a mastermind experience. Now it's been a little bit more one-sided because I haven't been taking advantage of all of your stuff. You've been in the hot seat, and every other person in this mastermind group experience, aka only me right now, has been giving you insights from my experience, my education, my background, my belief system, my way of seeing the world. And now all of a sudden your own mind has been expanded in a way that it would have never. There are some things I've said today that you would have never came to on your own without me bringing it up.
Yeah. And I think that relates to the question that Mike and I were kind of pondering about a smaller membership early. It's the principle, not the construct of, the operational setup that we've been doing and building at that point. It's literally the dynamic and the relationship with the principal where the opportunity is. So
yeah. I can tell you right now, when Pat Flynn and I started our mastermind group in October 2010, it was the two of us for the first 8 or 9 weeks. Then we added 2 new members, and we did that for a while until they stopped. It's like I can't make it this week, I can't make it that week, and it's finally we were a little passive aggressive then. Have you ever heard this story?
Yeah.
We shut down the mastermind group. We put an end to it and started a new one the same day. And we said, we'd like to invite you to be the first 2 members, but there's a new guideline in place that you have to make the meetings your number one business priority. Yeah. And they didn't want to join our new group. So I can't. That's hilarious. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at myself.
Yeah. No. Familiar.
So. But anyway, and then it was just Pat and I again for months again. And I will tell you, and then when we added Mike Stelzner and Leslie Samuel and Mark Mason, there were 5 of us. And we made a pact. We will never add any more people to this group. And then Ray Edwards heard about it, and he asked me. And by the way, one thing, we made another agreement with ourselves. We would never allow anyone to know that they are being considered for the Green Room Mastermind. So if anybody ever asks you, hey, how do I get into your mastermind group? The answer is automatically, I'm sorry, our group is closed. We are not open to applications. Our group is set as it is. I'm really sorry about that. And then we agreed that if we ever thought somebody would be good for the group, we would bring it to the group, and it had to be 100% unanimous. That way, if any one person said no, then it's absolutely no, and that person will never know that they were being considered in the first place.
Right.
So
I love it.
And so Ray actually says, hey, Cliff, how do I get into your mastermind group, that Green Room Mastermind? I said, I'm sorry, we're not accepting anyone. But then I went to the group and I said, guys, I know we said we have a hard limit of 5 people, but let me make an argument why I think Ray would be a great fit for our group. And everybody was unanimously on board. We brought Ray into the group, and we've been 6 people for many, many, many years.
Yeah. What is it that we don't know? There's that question of what you don't know is what can kill you. So what is it that we don't know pertinent to facilitating a successful mastermind?
I would pay special close attention to how I facilitated the meetings over the last several weeks compared to what you've experienced prior to 2020.
Yeah. And we talked about that. There's definitely a shift, and you've facilitated people's engagement in different ways. So it's less group coaching and more of a true mastermind and principle taking place. So yeah.
And the thing is, I so firmly believe in the mastermind principle. I believe the mastermind principle is more valuable than any one thing that I know. Because again, I still am limited to my own experience, my own perspective. And so for me to monopolize on giving feedback in a mastermind group setting, I realize I'm actually holding back a tremendous amount of value. And what I have determined is that I will attempt to always speak last if there's still time left over for me. And if there's not time left over for me, that's no problem, because I always have the margin to reach out afterwards and directly reach out and give my perspective and feedback to that person. So, and if anything, there's one thing that I have been doing. I haven't talked about it, but I have been doing is I have a list of every person, and it's inside of my day one with check marks. And so I have a list of all the names of the people. And as somebody asks a question or gives feedback during a hot seat, I check their name off. And by the end of the meeting, I look to see, halfway through the hot seat, is there anybody that hasn't spoken up yet? And I do not expect everyone has to give advice or ask questions or something like that. But I always try to make a point. Hey, Kim, you haven't said anything. You're not not that you have to, but is there anything that you want to say or add to the picture? And you could say, no, actually, I don't have anything to add on this. Great. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't miss out on an opportunity to say anything that was on your mind. So, because there's a lot of people who could say a lot, and I was like, wait a second, and stuff like that. And so what I'm doing more today is I'm facilitating, making sure everybody gets equal opportunity to give their perspective or advice and stuff like that.
I have to say this. I do appreciate that there was the one time you had called on me and I was like, I'm in observation mode right now, because I was literally in shaking my head, nodding my head, and kind of experiencing something, the same thing as the person on the hot seat. So I literally was in discovery mode, and I appreciated that you let me kind of stay there. Yeah, I do like the dynamic. I do the evolution. So I started August or September of last year, observing the dynamic of the group, observing your role in the group, observing the relationships of the people, observing the use of the resources and how people are connecting offline behind the scenes. Those are things that continue the cobweb of why this is such an important group to be a part of. And so building that infrastructure, that was a little bit of the reason behind today's call. Was there's a lot of things that make it feel seamless and valuable, not just what's said in the moment, but in what's created to help facilitate that ongoing connection. So, and I love the attribute checklist. I probably had it in the background, but I think writing it out and being very clear and understanding how it plays into not just the audition, but how it plays into the dynamic of the group, how it plays into not needing rules of engagement. So yeah, the interwovenness of all of it. It's not such just hey, I'm putting a name to something and come join us and be a part of this, because that can go very wrong. So, and I don't want masterminds to die out, because there's a lot of noise out there on the internet about masterminds and their value. And
but the thing, and the same thing is, like I said in Voxer that other day, is there's a lot of bad things about coaching. There's all kinds of jokes. It's like, hey, did you get up and brush your teeth? You can be a life coach.
Yeah.
And I don't even try to. I never try to protect the image of coaching. I could care less about protecting the image of mastermind groups. That's a waste of my time.
Yeah. A little bit of apprehension along is there something we don't know? But then the more important thing is it's that we've experienced it, and what you've developed and what we're a part of and what we speak into is what makes it a viable product and a viable service and a viable, meaningful tool to use. So
here, you said the top 3 insights for future mastermind members. I'm going to come up with these off the top of my head. Number 1, the attributes list that I gave you, I just created that within the past week and a half. And I can tell you that came out of the frustration of wasting my time and too much pursuing of people who aren't a good fit. And it's like, oh my gosh, once I get out of that, that's fine. I'd much rather, it's not so much, let me wear my badge of honors. Hey, I had 3 90-minute calls every single week since January of this year with potential new clients. I could care less. The question is, hey, I had 1 this week, but man, that one person fit all of these attributes. I love the phrase, slow down to speed up. I audition. So I audition people and give people assignments through connect phase. Many times an invitation comes with an obligation. I might say, Kim, I'll tell you what, if you commit to reading this book, I would love to invite you into a complimentary coaching experience that I do, a 90-minute complimentary experience. But the only thing is I want you to get the book, and once you've finished reading it, send me a note, and I will then send you a link to schedule. So that's that. I even audition you for the invitation. I don't just send you a link to the invitation. Audition, and I'm auditioning for people who fit the standard of the type of client that's going to be the best fit. Those are the top insights. And the third top insight, the value is not you. The value is the mastermind principle.
That speaks volumes for sure. And I think that's creates clarity along all 3, I'll call them phases, but phases of what we've discussed today. Yeah, I love it. All right, Cliff, I know I've taken you beyond the original 90 minutes. I hope that I provided a little bit of energy to you. I know Absolutely. I don't express it outwardly, but hopefully I express it intellectually.
Well, you did. This is awesome, because now I feel a weight has been lifted off of me that I put on myself to create a mastermind resource. I'm like, I got really excited about the idea of creating a mastermind resource. And then I'm like, there's a reason I don't create online courses. It's because this is too much work.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I do? It's like, and matter of fact, it's actually through that request for this information, my desire to jump straight into let me create a course, and it's helped me. I understand. Wait a second, creating content is not my superpower. So here I'll close with this. Do you know what my online username has been ever since there's been an internet?
No.
It's Cliff EOTC.
Okay.
Which means back in I used to be really hardcore Christian everything in my mind, right? So it was Cliff encouraging others through Christ.
Okay.
All right. And I realized, well, man, now that I have this business where it's not a Christian, it's not ministry focused and stuff like that, would that turn some people off if they see my user ID as Cliff EOTC? When they ask me, what does Cliff EOTC stand for? What do I tell them? And I'm like, well, authentically and transparently, I'll tell you, well, back in my ministry days, I thought I'd be a full-time pastor. And so my Skype ID was the first time I ever used it. And it was Cliff EOTC, encouraging others through Christ. But if you're not, if that is offensive in any way to you, and if it's a turnoff to you, just think of it as Cliff encouraging others through content. And then I realized, wait a second, my sweet spot, I love to create content, don't get me wrong, but only when I'm inspired. And when I'm not inspired, I don't love it at all. And so I realized It's like, oh my gosh, I've learned something about myself. My superpower is conversation. I love to have conversations. So now it's Cliff encouraging others through conversations.
I love that you call it your superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your podcast that you did on walking yourself powerfully into a room is one that made me discover how uncomfortable I was in not only talking about myself, but recognizing all that I had accomplished in my 40 years on earth. Well, 44 at the time you probably published it. So
you mean your abundance of marketable skills and your high achievements that you take for granted all the time?
Yeah. And so now that I'm doing my email marketing for my mastermind, can I tell you how there's a collision taking place right now? So Monday morning is me, scribing on a piece of paper some ideas of how to express my superpowers, as you call them, and how to share them, and how to build it into something that others can see and say, I'm interested and heck yes to. So
yeah,
it's not my sweet spot. Thus, I reached out to Leslie last week, and I'm like, all right, digital marketing girl, I need a little background help because this is all foreign language, foreign concept. I get it, but I got to figure out how I navigate it. And thus, I have to follow up with her this week. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but I appreciate it. I'm, as always, how grateful I am to be a part of all things Next Level Mastermind in our group. I do love our group. I love the new faces in our group. So thank you again, and be safe, stay healthy, share kindness, and see you Wednesday morning.
Well, there you go, my friends. That was my conversation with Kim Rondina, where I gave her access for, originally it was 2 hours, but you got to hear an hour and 35 minutes of her accessing, just off the top of my head, the specialized knowledge that I have accumulated over all of these years, for over a decade now, of my experience with mastermind groups. Now, if you are a high achiever, if you fit all of the attributes that you heard me talk about in this conversation with Kim Rondina, and you're looking for a mastermind group where you're going to be held to the highest level, I want to let you know the Next Level Mastermind is no small investment. And I'm not just talking financially. Financially, it's $2,250 per month, or $25,000 if you pay in full. It is a minimum of 1 year commitment. You can stay in as long as you want after that. Many people do, but it is a minimum of a 1 year commitment. And I will tell you right now, just applying for the Next Level Mastermind doesn't guarantee that you get into the Next Level Mastermind. But if you are interested in applying for the Next Level Mastermind and you'd like to have a chance to see if you can get into this incredibly highly powerful mastermind group experience that you'll look forward to more than just about any other meeting you have in your week, any given week of the year, I will tell you it would be powerful for you to do it. So just head over to nextlevelmastermind.info, nextlevelmastermind.info, or head over to cliffravenscraft.com, click Work With Me, and then click on the tab for Next Level Mastermind. You'll see how to apply there. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast episode. Until next time, I encourage you to take everything you do in life to the next level.
Mindset and